Before DeLong, before Friedman, before Vallée, before Hynek, and even before the term UFO existed, there was Major Donald E. Keyhoe, America's first mainstream ufologist. In a time when trust in government was at an all-time high, and going against the grain of popular culture was met with severe ostracization, Donald Keyhoe had the courage to investigate and publicly speak out about the UFO phenomena. A Marine aviator who would eventually earn the rank of Major, he used his connections within the military and government to piece together a glimpse into the UFO phenomena and the U.S. government's contrasting public and private stances on the subject. Donald Keyhoe is widely credited with being the first to suggest that there was an active cover-up by the U.S. government regarding the UFO subject, and he would discuss this publicly. Through his books and television and radio appearances, many Americans were exposed to the UFO phenomena for the first time. Donald Keyhoe would also go on to found one of the world's leading civilian UFO research organizations, NICAP, and he would spend the rest of his life researching the phenomena.
Good evening, everybody, coast to coast. This is Douglas Edwards. Tonight, Armstrong Circle Theater goes after a most unusual story, the riddle of the flying saucers. We will depart from our usual format, and instead of dramatizing an adventure, we ask you to participate in a controversy. Are UFO, unidentified flying objects, real or imagined? Now, if these so-called flying saucers are real, where do they come from? Are they secret weapons being tested by our own or foreign governments? Or are they, as many believe, spacecraft from other planets, invading our atmosphere, actually observing life on Earth? Tonight, we're going after this story. We're going to the government files and to experts on all sides of the issue. We're going after facts. In just a few moments, UFO, the Enigma of the skies, on the Armstrong Circle Theater. Today we stand on the threshold of outer space. Is space the emptiness we've long believed? It may not be. For life, intelligent life, may already exist somewhere out in the unmeasurable vastness of space. In a universe containing billions of planets, millions of galaxies, by the simple law of chance, there must be planets enough like our own to sustain life. Actually, some authorities have gone so far as to offer evidence that such life does exist. Unknown is defined in the dictionary as not discovered, not identified, not brought to knowledge. After 10 years of investigation and analysis, the Air Force still lists a small percentage of UFO sightings, flying saucers, as unknown. But to many who've become intensely involved in the puzzle of UFO, this figure seems utterly unrealistic. Of the scores of private, non-government organizations that are devoted to UFO, possibly the most active and eminent is the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena of Washington, D.C. On its board of governors are a number of outstanding citizens. Among them are Vice Admiral R.H. Hillenkoetter, former head of the Central Intelligence Agency, Rear Admiral H.B. Knowles, U.S. Navy retired, Major Dewey Fournay, Jr., former Air Force UFO investigator. Its director is Major Donald E. Keyhoe, Annapolis graduate and a former Marine Corps pilot, author of Flying Saucers from Outer Space. Well, Major, you've seen our report on the Air Force conclusions dealing with the current UFO sightings. They've narrowed the unknowns down to 1.9%. How do you feel about that figure?
Well, even if you accept that figure, Mr. Edwards, there's one thing you have to remember. It covers only the last 2 months of sightings. Actually, the figure for all unknowns since 1947, using official Air Force statistics, is over 12%. Now, that is based on this official Air Force record known as Project Blue Book and tables which you will find showing various percentages over the years. Out of the 6,000 cases investigated by the Air Force, 700 still remain unknown. It comes down to this. Either all of the hundreds of skilled observers, that means pilots, missile trackers, radar operators, and astronomers, were either deluded or incompetent, or they saw exactly what they reported. I think everyone will agree that deluded pilots would have been grounded very quickly, and incompetent radar men would have been fired. Not one such case is on record. Our National Investigations Committee has hundreds of UFO reports from highly trained observers describing real objects maneuvering under intelligent control.
Real objects under intelligent control, the implication being that they originate in outer space, I suppose.
Well, actually, that is a probability which is shared by many pilots and many scientists, including, for instance, Professor Herman Oberth, the great rocket designer. So we must agree that it is a probability.
Well, all right, we'd like to hear the evidence on which you base this particular assumption, Major.
Fine. And I want to begin by saying that all the cases I intend to cite are known to the Air Force. I also want to point out that our analysts on the committee include astronomers, missile engineers, pilots, radar men, former intelligence officers, and experts in many associated fields. Here is a verified case. May 1954, Dallas, Texas. A flight of 4 Marine Corps jets commanded by Major Charles Scarborough sighted in broad daylight a formation of 16 discs flying in groups of 4. When the jets tried to box in these discs, they climbed at terrific speed and disappeared. Here's a quote from Major Scarborough. These discs were real. They flew at incredible speed. Another case. November 1957, Long Beach, California. Major Lewis F. Baker, commanding officer of the Air Force Weather Station at Long Beach, along with 2 other Air Force weather experts and 10 airmen. This group saw a formation of 6 discs making terrifically fast turns and maneuvering at an altitude of 7,000 feet. They appeared to be larger, according to Major Baker, than a twin-engine airliner. Statement from Major Baker. They were circular and the color of spun aluminum. They changed course instantaneously. A case in 1952. This was from Captain William B. Nash, a veteran airline pilot. He and his co-pilot sighted a formation of 8 100-foot discs flying in echelon below their plane. Captain Nash told me personally, I am convinced these were machines from outer space. End quote. Our committee agrees with the announcement of the Air Force on this particular case, objects unknown. Let's take another commercial airliner case. This airliner was flying near South Bend, Indiana. At the controls was a veteran, Captain Robert Adickus. Adickus, his crew, and 10 passengers saw a spherical object pacing the plane. When Adickus tried to close in, the UFO accelerated and raced out of sight. A quote from Captain Adickus, before then, I wasn't convinced by the saucer reports. Now I know they do exist. Let me show you one more case. This from an eminent astronomer, Dr. Clyde Tombaugh, discoverer of the planet Pluto. Dr. Tombaugh sighted a cigar-shaped object with what appeared to be windows moving at tremendous speed. Now note how similar this object is to the one sighted by Captain Charles and Whitted that you mentioned earlier. Dr. Tombaugh, these things, which do appear to be directed, are unlike any other phenomena I ever observed. Other stars in our galaxy may have hundreds of thousands of inhabitable worlds. Races on these worlds may have been able to utilize the tremendous amounts of power required to bridge the space between the stars. End quote.
These cases you've cited, Major, are from the files of the National Investigating Committee. You also have some analyses on some of the cases the Air Force discussed earlier, have you?
Yes, we do, and I'd like very much to go into 2 of them. First, the Mantell case. Project Blue Book says that, or suggests that Mantell died chasing a skyhook balloon. The Air Force has never provided any record of a balloon being launched on the day Mantell crashed. There is absolutely no record that any Air Force or Navy balloon was launched then from Clinton Air Force Base or any other station. Now, any project in a top-secret category must keep detailed, accurate records. It's not any casual operation. Yet no such report has ever been produced. And now another point, which I believe is conclusive. The Air Force tells us that the balloon hovered over Godman Field for 2 hours, almost motionless. Minutes after Mantell's disappearance, one of his wingmen, equipped with oxygen, took off and searched the entire area for 100 miles. He found absolutely nothing. Now, what happened to the balloon? The searching plane was an F-51, which could fly at 350 miles per hour. Any slowly moving balloon would have been sighted in minutes, but the sky was completely empty. Now, just a word about another case the Air Force presented. This was the airliner which flew between New York and Puerto Rico, and which Project Blue Book says sighted a bolide or fireball, which caused the pilot to zoom to miss it. Now, when we investigated, we found that the Civil Aeronautics Board disagreed entirely with that conclusion. The professional astronomers the CAB consulted said there was no evidence that this UFO was a fireball or a meteor. Our committee agrees that this case is an unknown, just like the tragic Mantell incident.
Well, now, Major, you believe that the massive weight of evidence proves that flying saucers are real.
The committee and I, we believe it absolutely. We believe that despite the frauds and hoaxes that have clouded the issue, and which we completely disavow and try to disprove, we believe the facts prove that flying saucers actually exist.
And, of course, which puts you on exactly the opposite side of the fence from the Air Force. How do you account for that, Major?
Well, there are two possibilities, Mr. Edwards. First, an honest difference among analysts. Second, there is an official Air Force policy believed in the best interests of the people not to confirm the existence of UFOs until all answers are known. It is the belief of our committee, and this belief is substantiated by many scientists and experts in the field, that the public should be given all official information relative to UFOs. The American people are wise enough to evaluate this material, providing it is presented fully and accurately. The National Investigations Committee hopes that this will be done promptly. And now, Mr. Edwards, I would like to make a disclosure, something which has never been revealed to the public. For the last 6 months, our committee has been working with a Senate committee which is investigating official secrecy on UFOs. If the hearings are held, open hearings, I feel it will prove beyond doubt that the flying saucers are real. In order to secure the information we suggest that all of the citizens in the state right.
Thank you, Major Keyhoe.